Coming up on today's show. As the world watches in horror as Russia's illegal invasion of Ukraine takes place, the auto industry responds, Tesla's GigaBerlin finally gets the green light to begin operations, and following an immediate backlash from reservation holders, Rivian backtracks on its plans to increase the price of its R1S and R1T, at least for existing reservation holders. These stories and more coming next. Welcome back to TEN, or Transport Evolved News. I'm glad you're joining us. If you haven't already, do hit the subscribe button and that bell, although I can't promise YouTube will tell you when we've got new content, because it's stopped telling most of our subscribers. I am hopeful that we can brute force the algorithm into submission. Thanks. Today's show is sponsored by the Electric Vehicle Association. Join up to support the electrification of transport and get the help you need to finance your own EV or clean energy future. While I know many of us have watched in horror and disbelief as things have become increasingly dire for the Ukrainian people as Russian forces have pushed deeper into the country, I did want to give a quick roundup of how the auto industry has thus responded. Last weekend, Elon Musk announced on Twitter that Tesla would be waiving all fees at supercharger stations along likely evacuation routes, both for Tesla and non-Tesla owners. At the same time, one of his other companies, Starlink, sent Starlink terminals to Ukraine to help keep essential services connected to the internet. Well done, Elon. Elsewhere in the auto industry, Toyota, Volkswagen, General Motors, Daimler Truck, Ford, Harley-Davidson, AB Volvo and Volvo Cars have all suspended sales and operations in Russia as protest to the invasion. But at the time of recording this, Hyundai, Kia and Skoda, while temporarily halting production due to supply issues, will resume Russian production shortly. I speak for everyone at the channel when I say we stand with Ukraine, and there are links in the description below for those who wish to support aid efforts. As the first few waves of reservation holders get their production dates and VIN numbers, Ford has been busy completing final winter testing for its F150 Lightning pickup truck. This week, it shared footage from the same, showing various versions of the F150 Lightning at a restricted military base in Alaska. With so much power available at the wheels due to its twin electric motors, engineers from Ford were using the low traction conditions to further refine the truck's torque delivery and traction control system. And while this footage does show a lot of sideways fun on fresh snow, it also shows the F150 Lightning's tackling conditions that we're more likely to see in everyday real-world use: heavily iced uphill grades. Honestly though, I'd really love to see this, the Silverado EV, Hummer EV, Rivian R1T and Tesla Cybertruck go head-to-head in these conditions. What say you? After what feels like an eternity, it was confirmed early on Friday morning that Tesla has finally received official environmental approval to start production at GigaBerlin. Except that approval, the one that Tesla has been waiting a really long time for, comes in the form of a super long 536-page conditional building permit with some 400 conditions that need to be satisfied before production can officially begin. Tesla has stated that it aims to deal with the majority of those 400 conditions in the next 2 weeks, with a handful of them expected to take a little longer. Tesla's notice of approval will be posted in the local district offices for 2 weeks, and then there's a further month after that where objections to the approval can be raised. So, as long as nothing bad happens, Tesla should be making cars at GigaBerlin in about 6 weeks. Following on from the praise it received for its Polestar Precept concept vehicle, a car which will become the Polestar 5, Polestar has unveiled a new concept, the Polestar 02, and it's quite a looker. Built around a two-door convertible design with 2+2 seating, the Polestar 02 oozes halo car vibes and features a lightweight chassis made from different grades of anodized aluminium that are bonded together and then oven cured. Inside, there's extensive use of monomaterials. Those are versatile materials that can be used for multiple different components, but which require no separation during recycling, simplifying the end-of-life process. Its party trick? A fully autonomous drone that docks onto the rear trunk lid and can follow the car and capture amazing videos as you carve through some glacial valley. It's only a concept, but I would love to see this one come to production. What about you? Thanks to the passing of the US infrastructure bill last year, there is now significant federal funding available for charging networks looking to expand their coverage. Brand-agnostic charging providers like Electrify America and EVgo will of course be after some of the $7.5 billion on offer for building out EV charging networks. But Tesla is also eager to cash in, and this week we learned of its counter-proposal to the Biden administration to access some of the funds. Under the bill's plan, funding would only be offered for charging networks that roll out CCS-compatible charging stations. That's the de facto vehicle-agnostic rapid charging standard in North America. But in an 11-page document submitted to the federal government at the start of last month, Tesla argues that in addition to potential funding for every CCS plug on its network, it should also get a, quote, rebate for every Tesla or CHAdeMO connector at every site where it installs at least one CCS-compatible charging station. So far, there's been no response. Lucid Motors has long come under fair criticism for accepting financial backing from the Saudi Arabia Public Investment Fund due to the nation's continued human rights violations. This week, however, it doubled down on its connection to Saudi Arabia, announcing that it's just signed a new deal on a factory in the nation where it will produce upwards of 150,000 vehicles per year. The facility, due to be built in the King Abdullah Economic City, which itself is just outside Jeddah, is expected to be completed in 2025, with Lucid Air sedans expected to roll off the production line that very same year. Announced during its Q4 2021 financial earnings call, Lucid says the new facility is expected to add $3.4 billion of value to the company over the next 15 years. The US Supreme Court has officially begun consideration of a case filed against the US Environmental Protection Agency by fossil fuel-producing states and coal companies. At the heart of the case is an allegation that the EPA does not have the authority to shift electricity generation from coal and other fossil fuels towards renewable sources of energy. More worryingly, a previous court case involving the same plaintiffs that was brought against the Obama administration-era EPA, which had wanted to limit power plant emissions and credit generators for switching to renewable energy, was won by those very same plaintiffs, allowing fossil fuel companies to continue to pollute. If the conservative-leaning court rules in favour of the cohort led by West Virginia, it would prevent any future restrictions on power plant emissions and essentially just leave economic reasons to switch, because making electricity from solar is now far cheaper than coal. Ever since Sony unveiled its first concept car at CES 2020, we've been keeping a close eye on the company's electric vehicle plans. And this week, Sony gave us the latest progress on the same, an inked partnership with Honda to build electric cars based off the Vision S01 sedan and Vision S02 SUV. Although Sony has decades of manufacturing experience when it comes to consumer electronics and even automotive parts, it's never made a series volume car before, which is the reason why this partnership exists. According to official press releases covering the news, Sony and Honda will form what they simply called, quote, the new company that will plan, design, develop and sell the vehicles, but not own or operate the manufacturing facilities. It's not clear what the new company will be called or indeed when the vehicles will hit the roads. Watch this space. As it pushes to expand its vehicle production lines, build new factories and get more people behind the wheel of its vehicles, Rivian announced a price increase this week for the R1T and R1S. Then, after significant backlash, changed its mind. Sort of. On Tuesday, the company announced significant changes to its vehicle configuration, including a lower-cost dual-motor variant as opposed to the quad motors available at launch, as well as a smaller battery pack option. However, it then put the price of its quad-motor variants up and removed the standard range battery pack as a configurable option for the same. This meant that most reservation holders saw a $12,000 price increase on their reserved trucks, and many promptly then cancelled their orders. In response, CEO RJ Scaringe published a long blog post apologising for the price change and announcing that those with existing reservations pre-March 1st wouldn't be subject to the price change, and those who had cancelled in protest could also have their reservations restored without paying the price increase. The crash test ratings of new vehicles have long been used by consumers to help influence their purchase decisions. In most countries around the world, these crash test ratings have included not only occupant safety scores, but pedestrian safety scores. In the US, though, it hasn't really placed a lot of importance on pedestrians historically. At last, though, that's changing, with NHTSA announcing this week that the US's new car assessment program, NCAP, is getting a revamp to better assess how safe vehicles are on the road to users like pedestrians and cyclists. It's also adding assessment for advanced driver assistance safety systems like automatic braking, blind spot detection, and yes, semi-autonomous driver assistance packages. It took long enough. Coming up next, short shorts. But first, have you considered becoming a supporter? See, while TE does have other income streams like third-party production work, the overwhelming majority comes from folks like you. And while we're often told that you just need a smartphone to make YouTube videos, taking one look at our recent coverage from the Portland International Auto Show tells you otherwise. We have a team of 3 full-time and 2 part-time staff, and making payroll for everyone can sometimes be a challenge. And as the one who doesn't get paid when money is tight, I can tell you that we'd really love to increase our Patreon and YouTube membership. So if you can, stick around to the end and I'll tell you more. On to the short shorts. 6 former coal mines in the state of Virginia, now owned by the Nature Conservancy, are going to become some of the first utility-scale solar farms in the region. The hope is that other coal mines across the US can follow suit as the model gets replicated. Nikola Motor has announced its intent to hold an Analyst Day on March 23rd and an Investor Day on March 24th. It promises to focus on the company's, quote, leading Class 8 truck program and energy business, end quote. Yeah, leading. Indian Motorcycle has announced a new partnership with electric bicycle company Super 73 to debut the EFTR Hooligan 1.2 electric bicycle. I have no idea why it's called that, but it promises a road-legal Class 1 through Class 3 operation, as well as a high-speed off-road mode. Toyota has announced that it will begin building electric buses with its subsidiary company Hino and fellow Japanese company Isuzu. To start with, it will work on a battery-powered flat-floor route bus, but then move to a hydrogen fuel cell bus a little later on. Tesla has inked a deal with Australian company Core Lithium to buy a total of up to 110,000 tonnes of lithium spodumate over the next 4 years. Starting in the 4th quarter of the year, it's one of several deals inked recently. Natural Resources Canada has continued to fund the rollout of electric vehicle charging infrastructure across Canada. It's announced a $2 million Canadian investment in Electra Utilities Corporation. 340 charging stations will be installed across Ontario as a result. The Victoria State Government in Australia has announced a massive $15 million Australian dollar commitment to purchase up to 400 new electric vehicles and associated charging infrastructure. They'll be replacing ICE cars on their statewide fleet. Oxford City Council in the UK has become the first UK city to establish a true zero-emission zone. The zero-emission zone will ban all ICE vehicles, including hybrids, from driving into the zone unless they pay a fine to do so. Zero-emission vehicles will, of course, be exempt. As Ukrainians fight for their lives under Russia's invasion, EV charging stations in Russia that used parts made by a Ukrainian supplier, Auto Enterprise, have suddenly stopped giving out power and instead now display pro-Ukrainian messages like, quote, "Putin is a dickhead," end quote. The World Car of the Year award has been awarded to many electric vehicles over the last decade, including the Nissan Leaf and Chevrolet Volt. But this year, the Kia EV6 took the prize home, with the Renault Megane E-Tech and Hyundai Ioniq 5 taking second and third place. French-Canadian company Litenda has unveiled the electric city bus, a vehicle which has been designed with cold Quebecois winters in mind. It features heated surfaces and a radiant heated floor to help keep occupants warm and prevent window misting. Kia has held its 2022 CEO Investor Day, at which it announced its plan to sell 1.2 million battery electric vehicles in 2030, as well as offer 14 battery electric vehicles for sale by 2027. Its EV9, due next year, will feature Kia's new autonomous vehicle technology. Israeli firm SCOTUS has announced that by 2024 it will be producing battery cells capable of adding 100 miles, 160 kilometres of range to an EV with just 5 minutes of rapid charging. If achieved, this will be game-changing technology. Stellantis held an Investor Day this week in which it continued to tease future electric models, including an all-electric Jeep due to debut in 2023. While details weren't discussed, it did share a picture, and it's not bad looking. Kia America has officially partnered with Currently app to bring mobile on-demand charging to its Californian customers. For the first 2 months of ownership, EV6 customers in California will be able to use the emergency charging service for free. Ford has officially announced the price of its bidirectional home charging station, aka the Ford Charge Station Pro. It's included with all extended range F150 Lightning trucks, but the charging station will also be available to buy for $1,310, but installation is apparently extra. During its official Q4 2021 earnings call this week, Lucid Motors confirmed that it delivered a total of 125 Air sedans last year. It also slashed its 2022 production estimates as much as 40% due to supply chain issues. After starting test production of 4680 cells, Panasonic has confirmed that it will begin making series volume cells for Tesla by the end of fiscal year March 2024. This means we could see Panasonic 4680 cells as early as April next year. Tesla has officially begun turning on full self-driving beta for customers in Canada. The first market outside of the US to have official access to full self-driving beta, eligible Canadian Tesla owners will be invited to join the program in coming months. Mazda has just released February sales figures for the US, and unlike the rest of the auto industry, which is selling a lot of EVs, Mazda has sold just 46 examples of its MX-30 EV. The reason? A hugely high sticker price and a laughably small EV range. Fiat has officially debuted its e-Ulysee in Europe. Built on the EMP2 platform, it's offered with a choice of 50 or 75 kilowatt-hour battery packs and can be configured in 28 different configurations, including a 7 or 8-seat minivan. Wireless charging can often be seen as a bit pointless and less efficient than just plugging in, but Volvo is about to test a real-world, practical application for the tech, wireless charging a fleet of electric Volvo taxis in Gothenburg. Taxis will recharge while waiting for fares. Just like its sister company Kia, Hyundai held its own CEO Investor Day this week. During the event, it announced its plans to target a 7% global EV market share by 2030, with 17 new battery electric models debuting by the same time. Elon Musk has never been a fan of unions, but this week on Twitter, the Tesla CEO invited Tesla workers to vote on unionizing, noting that Tesla will do nothing to stop them. Previously, though, Musk had told employees they could join a union, but they would lose all of their stock options. Cake has announced a new package for its Makka electric moped. Called the Prism package, it allows you to add colourful top and bottom shields, as well as a 60/61 aluminium alloy bracket to personalise your Makka. You know, to Mac it yours. The Volkswagen ID.4 has been given some tweaks for the 2022 model year, and that includes a range increase across the board. According to just released EPA figures, all ID.4 models get between 7 and 8% increase in range this year. Volvo has announced a tweak of its entire car lineup, including an exterior fresh to the XC40 Recharge. But what's most interesting is a new entry-level single-motor variant of the C40 Recharge, which will go on sale in the third quarter of this year. Lordstown Motors, which I should amazingly note uses the same PR team now as Nikola Motors, nudge nudge, wink wink, lost the shareholding of General Motors last year. In a statement to the Detroit Free Press, GM has confirmed that it sold its stake in Lordstown in Q4 last year. And those are your short shorts, but there will be more next week. The iconic Tesla Roadster, the original one I mean, is a car that I've long maintained has bedroom wall status in a way that other Tesla models haven't. It was small, it was quick, and by God, was it a fun car to drive. And since the car ceased its limited production in 2012, we've watched as the value of used Tesla Roadsters have gone skyward, with ones that have former celebrity owner status often gaining even more money on the used car market. Well, last week, a mint condition 2008 Roadster VIN 005, just one of 11 to be fully built in the UK by Lotus in Norfolk, Batteries et al., has sold for a cool $250,000 US. With just 840 miles on the clock, this 14-year-old car is the epitome of a trailer queen. And while that might get some people salivating, I've got to say I'm more about driving the original Roadsters because, by golly, they were amazing. And finally, as fossil fuels' future becomes less certain and more nations around the world announce an end to suck, squeeze, bang, blow, filling stations and oil companies are entering into the EV charging game. We've already seen plenty of companies announce partnerships to offer charging at their gas stations, and we've even seen some, like Shell, transform former filling stations into dedicated EV charging hubs. But in the UK, we learned this week a new filling station in Billinghurst, Sussex, has just opened, complete with 2 brand new charging stations for EVs. The problem? Aside from currently being switched off with no apparent plans to turn them on, the stations are J1772 or Type 1. That's the connector type used in North America and for a while in Europe in the early days. But today, Type 2 is the standard used by automakers and found on every new electric vehicle sold there. This renders those charging stations useless for the majority of electric vehicles on the road today. SMH, and thanks to Sussex EVs for sharing the video. And on that note, we are done for the day. But before I go, a huge thank you to the Electric Vehicle Association for sponsoring today's roundup. They've been advocating for electric vehicles since 1967, and they firmly believe that our future depends on us making the switch to clean, green electric cars today. The EVA can help you find someone near to you that can help you make the switch to electric. It can help you become an EV educator, and it can point you in the direction of monthly meetups for like-minded EV fans. And if you become a member, you'll gain access to a clean energy and EV loan program set up between the EVA and the Colorado Clean Energy Credit Union. You can find out more by heading to electricauto.org. Don't forget to hit subscribe and the bell for this channel and our second channel, Transport Evolved Take 2. And if you're not already a channel member or Patreon supporter, please consider becoming one. Or you can send us a tip through Ko-fi, Bitcoin, or check out our cool swag store. We will all be back soon with more content on the channel, so enjoy your weekend. Please stay safe. Consider donating to Ukrainian efforts if you can. And as always, keep evolving.